Chapter 23 The Island of Monte Cristo. Thus, at length, by one of the unexpected strokes of fortune which sometimes befall those who have for a long time been the victims of an evil destiny, Dante was about to secure the opportunity he wished for, by simple and natural means, and land on the island without incurring any suspicion. One night more, and he would be on his way. The night was one of feverish distraction, and in its progress visions good and evil passed through Dante's mind. If he closed his eyes, he saw Cardinal Spada's letter written on the wall in characters of flame. If he slept for a moment, the wildest dreams haunted his brain. He ascended into grottos paved with emeralds, with panels of rubies, and the roof glowing with diamond stalactites. Pearls fell drop by drop, as subterranean waters filter in their caves. Edmond, amazed, wonderstruck, filled his pockets with the radiant gems, and then returned to daylight, when he discovered that his prizes had all changed into common pebbles. He then endeavored to re-enter the marvelous grottos, but they had suddenly receded, and now the path became a labyrinth, and then the entrance vanished, and in vain did he tax his memory for the magic and mysterious word which opened the splendid caverns of Ali Baba to the Arabian fishermen. All was useless. The treasure disappeared, and had again reverted to the genie from whom for a moment he had hoped to carry it off. The day came at length, and was almost as feverish as the night had been, but it brought reason to the aid of imagination, and Dante was then enabled to arrange a plan which had been hitherto vague and unsettled in his brain. Night came, and with it came the preparation for departure, and these preparations served to conceal Dante's agitation. He had by degrees assumed such authority over his companions that he was almost like a commander on board, and his orders were always clear, distinct, and easy of execution. His comrades obeyed him with celerity and pleasure. We get a dream sequence. Not something I expected, but now that we have it, I'm surprised that we didn't get one when Dante was in the dungeon. That seems like a place that would be ripe for dreamlike imagery and dream metaphors for the situation he was in. But I guess we did have to kind of get a lot of story and exposition out during those times. So now, what does this dream mean? Do we want to get Freudian with it and really start to pull it apart? I guess this one is for Stan the Fan, who wrote us that letter back in chapter 21, or was it chapter 20? I don't remember, but back in the day, he tried to bring a Freudian and Jungian perspective to the story. So let's look at this dream sequence through those lenses, shall we? I think Freudian analysis would look at his dream as a sort of wish fulfillment. Freud argued that dreams are the disguised fulfillment of repressed wishes. However, they're undercut by a sort of anxiety, a fear of futility. The cave that is made of gems of every sort, pearls falling from the ceiling, is undercut when, he tries to bring them out into the world, and they turn to ash, or they turn to common pebbles, actually. The cave would probably be seen as some sort of womb-like metaphor, and that he is taking the jewels and exiting the cave as a sort of rebirth. But upon his rebirth, all of this dream wish fulfillment is starting to crumble and turning to common, invaluable stuff. Now, okay, full disclosure, I am not a Freudian or a Jungian. I don't subscribe to either camp. If I had to, I find some other stuff a little more useful in the Jungian analysis. I find both of them fascinating, but this is kind of interesting. Just take what we just broke down for a second and think about that. This wish fulfillment for treasure. Now, from this Freudian lens, if the treasure in Dante's mind, well, okay, hold on. I'm getting ahead of myself. Sorry to tease you like that. I'm going to go into the Jungian because he deals with archetypes. And by archetypes, it's more, I think, relational. What does the idea of a cave mean to your unconscious? What do you associate it with? So let's start to look at what the treasure might mean, what the cave might mean, and then what the symbolism of it turning to common stone means in regard to both of these things. So the cave could mean, what would Dante associate with a cave at this point? I mean, the dungeon that he was in for so long, maybe. something full of mystery or potential. I would even say it's a place that he might associate with transformation, because he is, having been imprisoned in the dungeon for so long, became a different person by the time he came out of it. He went into the dungeon and found treasure through Faria, the wealth of knowledge, and developed his own kind of roadmap to vengeance, his oath of vengeance. So these all could be things that he's associating with a cave. And Jung would argue that the treasure would fit very much into that the treasure would be of the self with a capital S, a wholeness or spiritual wealth, internal greatness of character. That seems to hold water with the association Dante would make with the treasure that Faria gave him in terms of knowledge, intelligence, unlocking the mysteries of his own mind. Jung also had a penchant for associating dreams with kind of universal myths, those archetypes. I don't know how much I buy into that necessarily, but it's worth kind of acknowledging the literal association with the cave of Alibaba, the, open sesame, the word that unlocks the cave to the riches of the genie, and that he forgets the word here. So there's something significant in that maybe we can approach in a second. But I think Jung would look at this dream as like a compensating for something, not sexually, not like that, but Edmond being obsessed with this treasure and yet not being able to grasp it and utilize it might be suggesting that there's still work that he needs to do for himself to unlock his unconscious or unlock the latent powers of himself. It's basically saying, the treasure might be real, but you still need to transform yourself completely. Otherwise, you're still going to be grasping at pebbles. Now, this is all, I think, very interesting if we look at both the Freudian and the Jungian approach to the analysis of this, because if we take it one step further, I think this is indication already that Dante knows his path toward vengeance is ultimately futile as far as developing his character and redemption and giving himself what he needs. Because if we look at what he associates the treasure with, it's not, it could be all of these things at once. It could be the treasure that Faria gave him of his mind, but the association specifically that we saw as he luxuriated on the thoughts of what the treasure can do. Remember back, I think it was chapter 19, when Faria was saying, think of all the good and reward that you can give your friends with this treasure. And Dante was like, ah, ha, ha, but think of all the bad I could do to my enemies. And I think that is at play here of him going, this treasure means vengeance. This means I can exact revenge. But the treasure in this dream, when he's actually pulling it into reality, out of the cave, into the light, it turns to stone. It turns to pebble. It turns to a worthless thing. So is this foreshadowing what's going to happen with Dante by the end of this? As he starts to exact his revenge, is it going to be a hollow victory? Now we can start to look at, if we go with that idea, we can start to look at what does it mean that he cannot remember the phrase to reopen the cave? Is it going to be that by trying to bring this vengeance to light, there's going to be a point of no return in which he can't re-enter his own subconscious to transform himself for the better? Some of you who hate philosophy, hate psychoanalysis, hate listening to people's dreams, probably have turned this episode off already. I've been going a little bit too long, but this is the kind of interesting, weird stuff that you can start to pull on when you start to analyze dreams. I'm not of the proponent that there are universal symbols in everybody's dreams and water means one thing to you and, the same thing to somebody else. I think that it is an associative thing where it's like, well, I almost drowned when I was a kid, so water equals danger to me. Whereas someone else is, a health nut and they look at water as the life force and bringing life. So, like, that's kind of where I'm coming at dreams from. And Dante's a fictional character, so he doesn't have a full life to, make those associations on. We can only, this is all confectionery speculation. So we had fun this episode, though, didn't we? A little bit different vibe to start chapter 23. Well, why don't we continue with where this chapter is going to go, because it's called the Island of Monte Cristo. So I have to think we're going to arrive there by the end of this chapter, don't you? Well, there's only one way to find out, and that's to continue. So join me here tomorrow for more. Until then, okay, goodbye. The Countdown of Monte Cristo is part of the Gruntwork Podcast Network. This show is produced, edited, and hosted by Landon Solano. The original text of The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. Theme song by Magic Solo. If you want to support the show and others like it, visit patreon.com/gruntworkpod. Thank you for listening. See you tomorrow.